IVM.
Building entertainment companies is something that we've talked about previously on this podcast. We've discussed turning entrepreneurs from creators with beer biceps and Akash Shah. And we also talked about building entertainment startups of the future with Anuj Gosalia from Terribly Tiny Tales and Anirudh Pandita from Filter Copy. In today's episode, we'll talk to two people who I've always admired for their skill at growing their companies wherever they've gone. In the studio today, I have Rohit Raj, who is the brains behind Artist Aadmi and also is the guy who manages the career of India's biggest YouTube star, Bhuvan Bam. Also, joining Rohit and me is Vinay Pillai, ex-colleague and the guy who is the Karta Dharta at TVFPlay. Vinay also built out TVF's talent management division that is now turning a profit as well. With Rohit and Vinay in the room today, we talk about their journeys, their forays into talent management and their philosophies of team building. We also talk about the evolution of content from the perspective of young executives who are shaping the way Indian entertainment will go in the next 5 to 10 years. Stay tuned for Storytellers and Storysellers with me, Vineet Kanabar, right after these messages. And hey, thank you for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Storytellers and Storysellers, where we talk the business of entertainment with me, Vineet Kanabar. In the studio today, I have two people who I have always enjoyed speaking to, and that's very rare in my life. Say hello to Rohit Raj. Hi,
Hello.
Rohit.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Vinay.
Hey, what's happening?
That's Rohit Raj, the guy who runs Artist Aadmi and also manages most of BB's time. And Vinay Pillai, ex-colleague of mine and head of TVFPlay and the influencer division at TVF.
And a lot of other hats.
And a lot of other hats because TVF is a hat company.
Yeah, more or less.
Guys, thank you so much for making the time. Always great to hang out with you. I'm going to bring you guys in by asking you to tell us your journey. Rohit, I'll start with you. I know you as the guy who works with India's biggest YouTube star, probably the biggest YouTube star we will have for a long time coming. And the guy who runs a beautiful indie artist division with Artist Aadmi that's also performing shows all over the country. What are the other things that you do?
So, about 7 years back, I dropped out of engineering.
Well done, man.
That was 1 year of engineering and I realized that this is something that I don't want to do.
Where were you engineering?
I was studying in a hill station called Solan near Shimla.
Beautiful.
And my university was JP University. My father thought that me being the eldest son, I should probably pursue engineering because that will get me some money every month 4 years down the line.
Engineering is India's safety job, right?
Right. Till about 5 years back it was.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so
Now it's being an
Now it's
influencer.
like 10 standard.
Oh, that's
Now,
true.
yeah, now it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one can do anything now.
Yeah. But yeah, back to engineering.
So before that, I trained with a group from National School of Drama, and I was an actor. So I used to do a lot of theatre, and I uploaded my first spoof YouTube video when I was in 11th grade with 5 of my friends. But that was all my history.
Right.
I went for my engineering, and in a year, I made one of the best friends that I have right now. But my attendance was about 7%.
Oh, wow.
So I had to drop out.
It's still more than India's GDP.
That's true. So that happened, and I came back, and on the way my father said, "And why don't you pursue journalism and mass communication?" But tab tak to matlab I was feeling like a loser because I came back and shit happened. So I started my event management company, and we started doing small parties at clubs around Delhi and Delhi NCR.
This is like 2013?
This is 2012 towards the end. And then since then, I started getting calls for college festivals. So I started my event management company where we used to manage talent and production setup for colleges and weddings and corporate shows.
Right.
3 years down the line, it was a roller coaster ride. Like we used to do shows with Yo-Yo Honey Singh to Neha Kakkar to Vishal and Shekhar. We did shows in probably Jammu and Kashmir to Chennai.
And these are like all college performances, college
with
shows.
10,000 people.
Right.
With 15. That was my adrenaline. I used to do these shows. It used to be a nightmare. But I used to do these shows only for those 12,000 people dancing in front of me. Just 3 days of fun. For me, it was everyday job. For them, it was a memory of a year.
Right, absolutely.
So 3 years down the line, I was going through a low after my journalism. A friend of mine who was a musician, he said, "Why don't you manage my band? I'm a 6 member band in Delhi and we get regular shows. But I'm looking for somebody who could manage our business," because they wanted to concentrate on their music. Simultaneously, I happened to meet Mr. Bam. He was a friend, and he was a friend of one of my very dear friends.
Oh, before we go forward, what is the name of the band?
Band is called Agastya.
Okay.
And there was another band which I used to work with, Astitwa,
Right.
who was friends with Bhuvan.
Got it.
So Astitwa got me in touch with Bhuvan, and Agastya basically started my career as a artist manager. So then again, the whole roller coaster ride of again doing a lot of shows, almost 30 shows a month.
Wow.
And it used to be crazy because it used to be one show would be in Saharanpur, the other would be in Delhi, the other would be in Gurgaon, the other would be in Agra.
And how big was your team around this time?
This was just me and the six band members.
Mad.
And our photographer, my brother Tushar, I don't know if you've met him, but he's been with Bhuvan, he's been with Agastya, he's been with Artist Aadmi, and so Tushar and me and the six band members, we used to travel almost all over. Simultaneously, Bhuvan was going through his beginning of his YouTube journey. I know him since he had about 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, about 2015.
It's a long time.
Pre-Geo.
16. Pre-Geo,
Yeah,
for sure.
pre-Geo, correct.
So that happened, and we tried to do some conversations with Bhuvan. We tried to do some conversations with a few brands. We did not click. But after a year of patience, and then brands started coming in, Bhuvan was almost all over.
What was the first brand that happened for you?
Tabzo. So we did a TVC deal and a 3 YouTube video deal with Tabzo.
Right.
And that was the first deal that we cracked. And post that, Bhuvan and I have been together. And Agastya started my journey as an artist manager, where I used to be a bookings and talent manager for a musician. And since then, now I manage about 9 different talent.
Right.
Agastya's lead guitarist, who basically turned me into a talent manager, is now my partner. And Rohit Raj Events, which is my event management company, is also running. There's a team back in Delhi.
Wow, how many companies do you run?
So I run 5 companies.
Wow, man.
One is an event management company. I also happen to own 2 small budget hotel in Uttarakhand. Then there is a talent management company. We do a little bit of influencer marketing as well for friends and family.
Right.
And then BBQ Wines. And now Yuthyapa. Yuthyapa is our 6th venture. So there are 6 different things that I'm trying to do right now. So
That's part of the Rohit Raj empire.
I won't call it an empire right
Soon
now.
to be.
But yes, we'll have drinks over this conversation soon.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, man. That was a great introduction for the listeners to really understand where you've come from to what you're doing now, and how much hard work must have gone into it. 30 shows a month sounds insane, and I can totally relate. Back in college, I was always organizing gigs or organizing fests or something like that, and pulling one off is a massive effort. And from there on, to be touring 30 days a month is crazy, man. But thank you for that. Vinay Pillai, we first met at your old company, Dekho.
Yeah,
Right.
it was a Saturday, I remember.
Yes, it was a Saturday, and I was there to meet some of the team at Dekho because TVF and Dekho were merging a little bit. How did that happen for you, man? How did Dekho happen?
So, to go back to the start,
Yeah,
I always wanted to be like a computer engineer. Funnily,
Right.
I wanted to be one.
So that's 3 engineers at this table.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 and 1 who made the right choice
Yeah,
of dropping
2
out.
and 1/4.
Someone who got it before we did.
Someone who got it before we did, absolutely.
So, I did the usual spiel. I did my computer science engineering. Post that, during another common thing I think is like we all did gigs.
Yeah.
Was super involved in the committees in college. It was something that I really
Where
enjoyed.
was this?
At Rajiv Gandhi.
Correct.
In Bombay itself.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so was something that I really enjoyed. I was also like the GS of the college, like some ages ago. That was like 2011, 2010. But really enjoyed that, and one thing that I liked even back at that time was that when you're running a festival, there's no way that you can motivate people other than just really get them amped up for it.
Right.
Unlike, even at work, essentially you have like bonuses and salaries, and these things are, according to me, important, but very rarely a motivator.
Right.
So learn that very early that, if you want people to get to do things, you got to convince them as to why you're doing this and how are they really, really going to enjoy and benefit from it. So that I think was if you're not doing college gigs, please go and do it, whoever's listening. Right?
Yeah, man. Favorite thing of all time to pull off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then college
the joy
gigs
of
and
no money.
engineering.
Yeah. So post that, again, wanted to do my masters. So studied for that and went to Columbia. Studied specifically to do, it wasn't an MBA, but something very similar specifically for tech management, right?
Right. So like a product management kind of.
Exactly. So the idea was to always be a product manager. Studied for it, wanted to do it, was super happy with it. And but one thing I realized that journey was that I don't know if I really wanted to do the big company stints, right? So half of my class, is in Wall Street, doing investment banking jobs.
Oh, so those are the guys we need to go after.
Oh yeah, totally. I say hunt them down. I have seen people change. I have seen really nice guys become, what you'd imagine people at Wall Street are.
Yeah.
But so my first stint was at a startup called Drama Fever, which was a Korean drama startup in New York. We did Korean drama OTT, which back in the day in 2012 was
the biggest thing around it.
Not at all. I mean,
No?
honestly, video viewing and OTT, like Netflix is just about started acquiring content from other players.
Right.
That's how this industry is super young in that sense.
True. But I meant it in the Korean wave, export of content and consumption.
So
in the
I saw what was YouTube's most powerful thing when I was at Drama Fever. So, prior to that, with music and everything, you've noticed that like without a label backing you,
Right.
there was no concept of releasing globally, right? You
Right.
could never become a star in another country unless a label decided to make you a star.
Correct.
And when we were at, specifically at Drama Fever, we were looking at Korean talent and seeing, hey, what can we do to amp up interest? And then Gangnam Style happened.
Right.
Right. So that video, funnily, Gangnam Style released 2 months before it actually blew up. They
Right.
a digital manager told him that we'll put this on YouTube and we'll probably make $10,000. So they did it.
Right.
And that was the first video to hit 1 billion views.
Yeah.
First to hit 2 billion. So, but what it really, really proved was without a label, you could actually take a song and you could put it into another market and succeed at it. Which was unheard of, So that's where I think YouTube, like the crazy power that it brings is that meritocracy. You see with Bhuvan, I mean, I don't, and I'm sure Bhuvan will also attest to this. I don't think Bhuvan would ever, get a show on TV while just starting out. It was just not possible
Yeah.
for someone to build a show around one character, a monologue, and then become what it has, And now the average viewership is, I'm sure, on par, if not more than most GCs.
So
easily.
What he says is that till about 6 years back, we all know that Bhuvan's a musician, right?
Yeah.
So he has auditioned for almost all reality shows. He's been in the queue. He's seen the mess. And he's seen the kind of hypocrisy that there is at any audition which is happening for a television show. He did not get a chance there. So he started with his journey on Facebook and YouTube, which probably has got him where he is right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So no television, no record label, nothing can give you the kind of power that a platform like YouTube or Facebook or Instagram in today's time, or for that matter, even TikTok, is able to give to a lot of people.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. And I think, more power to him.
Yeah, and we were talking about this when it came to AIB as well, right? They started out their YouTube channel as a way to just get out there because shows
promote the podcast.
Correct. To promote the comedy gigs actually, right? To be like, bro, comedy हमको करना है पर लोग आ नहीं रहे हैं तो अभी क्या करें? And that's very sad. But back to I think that's a very interesting thing that you brought out. I'd never thought of it like that. Hey, Sai became an overnight star without a label because of YouTube.
Yeah,
right,
and in a completely different market. Nobody would release a Korean song in the US at that time.
I mean, all people know is just mouthing those words like.
And the step.
And the step,
Yeah.
correct?
So Drama Fever happened. It was a really quick adrenaline rush. We had a quick exit, which was awesome. Warner Brothers picked it up.
Right.
So, if your first stint in a startup is good, you've tasted blood. So then, you kind of want to stick in that. From there, I got to head product very early on at a firm called Docplace, which was started by a lot of people from Drama Fever with the exits. Did that for a couple of years. Really, really enjoyed the entire product building process. And that's when, I was like, okay, maybe, if I want to try out a bigger corporation, this is probably the time, to even taste it. So I went and did the most cliched consulting, management consulting, strategy consulting, where it is honestly the best feeling for a young kid.
Right.
You get to go and give advice to CEOs about their companies and problems, which I don't necessarily think we're qualified to, but it always helps to have that separate perspective.
Of course. And this was booze.
Had booze, yes. So did that for almost 2 years. And while I was there, I met my co-founder, Tanay.
Right.
And one of the things that was very clearly in my head while even working at Drama Fever and while doing my last project at Columbia was that Indians are obsessed with entertainment. And there is no way that video will not do well in digital in India. It was something that I was very clear about. And so we started working on Dekho, did a test round, used it in the US with like 20,000 users, raised a seed round, and then came back to India. So that's where the whole entrepreneurship journey started. Now, there's some very funny things in this also. This was the start of 2016, right? And one of the things that we faced, and imagine, right, like I'm talking about Feb 2016,
right,
all the way to even like mid 2016 till Jio happened. Every investor that we spoke to, or potential investor we spoke to, did not believe that video would work in India on digital, right?
Like,
And
did not believe or was like, hey, it'll happen, but another 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. 25 to 2025, 2030 is when they thought that, something like this might start making sense.
Yep.
They never believed that. They were like, print is still growing. So what are you saying that TV will get disrupted?
Right.
Why will people start watching shows on digital when they can watch it on TV? That was the whole logic behind it. The logic was that the production quality of digital content will never be as good as your TV content,
right.
Which is, I mean,
now it just feels like what?
Yeah, you can't even believe it, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, you can't even imagine that. On GEC, you would never see something as well produced as what the OTT players.
That's what surprises me is that Indian television isn't the best produced of all time, right?
Correct.
I mean, most of it is basically shot in like 2 buildings in Film City or something like that, right? But that's where it comes from. So it was a difficult belief to surmount before Jio. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's a very ill-founded belief. मतलब ऐसा बहुत वाजिब नहीं लगा.
I mean, honestly, even before Jio, I thought it was like already on its way. It was clear. Like,
pretty much.
Video was doing well across platforms. Be it on Facebook, be it on all of the major players back their strategy behind video.
Right.
It was only time that premium content would be the primary destination for video on TV. So like it's not like memes didn't work or like video memes or GIFs or like shorter videos weren't working. So I don't know where people had this clear lack of thought. And the crazy part is with the whole Jio and everything happening, within 1 year, like literally when we went for our later rounds, what we noticed was people went from, I don't know if I'm comfortable cutting a check of $2 to $10 million to, you know what, this cannot be done without at least $100 million.
Right.
So all of the major players moved to digital. I don't think a digital strategy today is anything innovative. I think it's just as any other vertical, you have to do it. You can't sit it out anymore.
Right.
Anyone sitting it out is probably not going to be a distribution company in the future.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, that phase was really quick, and we, had some very interesting investor things which we've spoken about.
Yeah.
But in that whole thing, at that point in time, TVF and what TVF brought, was a good mix for us. we were always obsessed with making a platform, figuring out the distribution side of things, figuring out monetizing of it. We had 0 creators in our team. Not a single person had ever made a show.
I think that was a very smart move to go for the distribution over the creation early on. I think there's a very, very interesting play there.
No, and that's why TVF was so interesting for us.
Exactly.
Because we saw this firm that, believe it or not, even today, makes some of the best shows on digital in this country. Even though I know that we are not as talked about as a lot of the other platforms, but if you look at the IMDb ratings or anything that people put out, Kota Factory was the best, the highest performed, definitely one of the highest performing on YouTube last year, the highest rated on IMDb.
Yep.
From all metrics, one of the finer shows of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from a strategy perspective, TVFPlay makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, bringing this back to how talent, and I use the word loosely here. When I say talent, I mean to include production houses like TVF as well, which is like a collective of talent.
Correct.
It's very important to own your distribution, right? You look at what the biggest talent in the world is doing. And I use the word biggest very loosely, but I'm going to say the Kardashians. They own their distribution, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something that I think is one of the most sound aspects of TVF strategy so far. While they have great creative coming out, creative आपको वरदान में नहीं मिला होता है ना, creative में it's a hits and misses thing, right? But having distribution to me sounds like a great thing. But that's not all you do at TVF, right? You've also built out this talent wing, influencer management.
So it was something that initially came out of. So TVF had tried something called Vectors.
I remember.
And you were
I was there.
Yeah. And so everyone internally, by the time we had arrived, was very against the thought of doing any kind of managing talent. And
this is really early days, man. At that time, I don't think during Vectors, TVF really understood talent management. They understood the attempt to monetize talent, but talent management as a discipline. I think during Vectors, there were like 3 people or 4 people managing some 40, 50 established or semi-established talents, which is a big deal, man.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that not having that stigma actually helped us because we were this makes complete sense. Why are we not doing this?
Right.
So we started managing creators. This time we went with a different philosophy of saying that, hey, you know what? We control sourcing on branded content. We control sourcing on being able to cast in web series and in sketches, not necessarily serious, long, like people who want to get into the movies. We don't control that sourcing. So essentially signing a talent whose primary goal was to become a movie star was something that we would not be able to address.
Right.
So this time we played that sensibilities where saying that, okay, there are a lot of creators out there that anyway TVA was kind of working for like just in sheer mentoring and help, right? Informally.
Right.
We're saying that a creator would be like, hey, what do we do with branded content? How do we do this better? How do you deal with brands? How do you make sure that the content doesn't get affected because of introducing brands in it? So we just kind of formalized it into a division.
Yeah.
And bought on creators.
And who were some of the early creators that you guys signed up?
I think the first one that we signed was a food creator called Diba Rajpal.
Oh, wow.
So food was a vertical that TVF never worked with.
Yeah.
But then Barkha Singh was someone we signed on very early. Essas, Komal Pandey, there's a bunch of folks. But I mean, more importantly, it also opened up a lot of different kind of brands to work with for us.
Right.
It also is a slightly faster delivery cycle. Because with TVF, it became a scenario where,
fiction would take its own sort of development time. Yeah.
Exactly. Fiction's obviously much longer. And above that, there's a certain expectation about TVF, which made it even slower,
right.
And we can't...
Quality.
Yeah. And because of which, I mean, that we came up with 3 other channels specifically to even deal with that and increase...
Trying to keep the pressure off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they also grow so well.
Yeah, and they've all done so well.
They all have
those channels.
They all have equal pressure now.
Yeah, man.
But
I think instead of taking the pressure off, we've just added more on 4 other. And I think that's a great thing in general, right?
Yeah.
All of these channels around have contributed to it feeling like a full ecosystem. I think I would not think a world without the timeliners would be like TVF page dal dete sab kuch. I think that's another great call as well. Let me ask you this though. Rohit, started working very early with a young talent and is still working with indie talents around. While the roster at TVF is usually you need to be some kind of a proven talent looking to make the next step, or how do you select, right?
Yeah,
and what's your process at selecting? I'll go with Rohit first.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, when I started about 3 years back, that's when I think a lot of talent in Delhi were mostly looking for live shows.
Right.
They were only looking for gigs because they were helping them on their bread and butter.
Right.
And then eventually they understood that whoever's not relevant on the internet will not probably make a lot of money on the live shows front.
Right.
So initially, I started working with people who I could trust, because here I don't work as a talent manager. I don't work as a manager. I don't work as a PA. I don't even work as your BD. I work as your CEO.
Right.
Right? All you have to do is sit in front of your studio or go on that stage and kill it.
Right.
Record the best song that you can and give it to me, and I will put it wherever I can. All you have to do is create that piece of art, and I will look after it.
Right.
That's why we call ourselves Artist
So well
Aadmi.
put, man.
So I am Artist Aadmi. My band members are Artist Aadmi. My beatboxer is an Artist Aadmi. My YouTuber, singer, songwriter, rapper is an Artist Aadmi. Everybody, even my sales team is an Artist Aadmi, because they're all artists in their own field. One. Second, nobody is doing a salaried job. Everybody is a partner in the business.
Right.
So there are 9 different talent, and everybody is a partner in each of these businesses.
Right.
So as much as you earn, the more money I'm going to be making, right? At the end of the day. So initially when I started, so I could only work with people who I could trust.
Right.
So I started with 1 band, graduated to 2, met somebody who was very dynamic, so started managing 3. Today we manage about 9. The process there is that, so with Agastya, so we run a music school where these people learn and different instruments, and they end up forming a band.
Right.
When they form a band, they go around different colleges and perform at War of Bands and basically struggle their way up so that they could win some and make some money as well. That's what they get as a prize or as a goodie from every college festival. And that's when they come after 2 years or 3 years of struggle. They come to us and then they say that now is the time when they actually want to do gigs, where they want to make money. So now we manage about 4 young talent who would be probably a year or a year and a half young in their commercial gigs sphere.
Since they turned pro, sort of.
Yeah, now they've turned pro. The others are established 11 years, 8 years old bands who've struggled their way in the first 3-4 years, and now they've been doing commercial music for the past 5-6 years.
Right.
The idea now, in a way, like how I do my A&R is that I want to now associate with any talent who's active on both online and on ground, so that because artists are the worst people to deal with. They are the worst clients. They are even worse than brands. Right?
Wow.
Brands.
I'm gonna put that on a T-shirt and then I'm gonna frame the T-shirt.
And that's the truth.
Yeah, it really is.
Because a brand still knows what their need is.
Right.
And they will make their way to
Allegedly.
get it.
Yeah.
Or at least would know what their KRAs are.
Sure,
right?
yeah. At least they know
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
A musician doesn't know when to wake up.
Right.
And
oh my God, yeah.
that's where it starts.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So creating a song could be done overnight. And then creating a song could take a year for somebody.
Sure.
So I recently, about a year back, I signed the only talent that I signed in the past 1 year is somebody who I gave a brand anthem brief today, and he gave me a song at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
So written, produced, scratch.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Right? Presentable to the brand.
I mean, that must
Yeah.
make you so happy, man.
That makes my job easier.
Yeah.
And and I can trust that artist so well that I can go out and pitch him
Right.
outrightly, right? So my A&R has now come down to a screening process where I have to filter between people who are active and who want to make a living for their own selves.
Right.
You know, a lot of people I can start to manage, but if they don't want to get out of their house,
Yeah.
it'll be very difficult for me.
So you look for people who have a drive that is not mujhe star banna hai, but that's I want to keep putting shit out
Every day.
right? Every day.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to feel like a star because my manager is like this high-powered CEO who can get shit done because I don't have to move a thing. You're invested in their hard work as much as they are, right? I think it's a very nice way of putting it. Let me bring Vinay into this, right? How does the process at TVF work then when you're choosing who you will manage, right? Because obviously that's a very circle of trust, personal process, personal screening sort of, right? How does it happen at a more sort of organized or a larger commercial venture?
And I think everything that he touched on, you'll see that as common in everyone that succeeds. Every artist that
absolutely
succeeds.
True. Yeah.
There's no way that you won't see an insane amount of trust, a huge amount of personal drive. I'm actually really scared of artists who don't want to really make it.
Yeah.
Because that's if that fire is not there, the likelihood of you making it is much lesser. So unless you get really lucky, and it's still difficult. But with our processes, I mean, you know how it is. I mean, with TVF now, we've broken it down to a bunch of factors, right from genre to like languages. We are obviously working with a lot of regional creators. To specifically also, people who are in some way linked with us in particular things, but also people who've done some kind of brand work.
Sure.
Brand work in that sense is not for every artist. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like there are amazing artists that would have never touched a brand. I mean, Rajnikant, I don't think has ever touched a brand, So...
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
he was painted on Air Asia.
Oh, yeah.
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 That was for a film.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think he's ever, endorsed a brand. I mean, a lot of the South heroes don't, But yeah, I mean, but the thing is that because our primary sourcing is branded content, there has to be a desire to in some way integrate or work with the brand.
Right.
Now, that does not mean every piece of content has to be branded. Does not mean that you have to work with every brand. But if you don't have at least some ethos or some thought process around it, it's tough to just...
There's no viability for it.
Exactly.
Anymore,
yeah. And we don't... I mean, for example, in music, if you found a musician who only wants to create albums and does not want to do live gigs, then, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. And again, guys who don't do live gigs are also not... There are great musicians who very rarely perform live.
Sure.
So that's...
But then they'll do sessions or something.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, sabko paisa to kamana hota hai.
I mean, you and I both love a band called Tool, and
he's got a vineyard, man.
yeah,
He's got a vineyard,
Oh,
right? So,
it's so rare to get a gig.
right.
But I mean, so there's a bunch of factors. But then what we've noticed is in our ecosystem, the advantage is obviously we could scale a team much faster. So we have about 15-20 people now as an entire team managing this. So we've signed 80-90 artists.
Right.
There is churn in it with respect to people who we work with, and we realize that, hey, you know what, they're not necessarily cut out for it. But then we can afford to take those risks, and because of the fact that we're a much larger org in that sense, and can get a little bit more leeway with going wrong on 5 artists.
Sure.
But I mean, the process remains the same. I mean, I think that all of the top artists, all of the creators that we truly believe in and know are going to grow, there is a huge amount of trust, there's a huge amount of personal ambition, there's a huge amount of drive that we see, and it's encouraged. It's something that we constantly try to be like, okay, you gotta go and do more of that.
Fantastic. I think what I'm hearing is, apart from personal ambition, drive, creativity, and honesty in that effort to work with brands, there's also a certain element of commercial viability that you look at.
Correct.
Right at the outset.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, right? Because the sense I get from Rohit, and I'll bring him in just a second, is while there's a clear sense of artist development that a company like Artist Aadmi brings to the table, is that also part of how you approach talent, especially when you have a large roster, right? Like 90 people working with you, and TVF is sort of the hotbed of a lot of content production that happens, right? So you'll do a web series, that's on Play, and then you'll do something on YouTube, and then you'll have Galeapa and Timeliners, and then you'll do something for Prime.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talent packaging that happens, right? So how much of that is as developed by you guys, or is it just, hey, we really think you're good for this, do it? How does that process?
No, I mean, it's obviously a big part of the internal pitching of what we do.
Sure.
I mean, you know about this show that we did called Engineering Girls.
Right.
Where all the 3 leads were essentially talent that was signed to us.
Right.
More importantly also, I mean, another very, very important thing that we forget in the whole media space, and why I say that a large media company cannot not manage talent, is because even though talent might be a smaller portion of a budget of, whatever's being done, right? Be it a movie or a web series or a gig, right? They might be a smaller portion of the total amount of cost in it, but they are a huge decision-making point for any of these things, right? So that is a very, very key learning with respect to media and talent, where if you're a large media company, if you're going to look at just the pure monetary sense that it's making, you're really missing out on a huge portion of understanding what or why you should have a talent division.
Sure.
Which is exactly in a case of Bhuvan, who's individually grown so large. Now, Bhuvan can do a show, and Bhuvan's a big part of the decision on it.
Right.
But then the entire aspect of what's being done and what's being worked on and the cost of it and the revenue of it, all of that is decided very heavily because of one person, but it's a much larger product.
Got it. And I think you hit that on the head, because that leads me to my question to Rohit, is that you have once in a generation talent, right? Pretty much. I think it's nail on bona fide once in a generation talent. And then you have a lot of other interesting artists who are doing interesting work who may never be that big, right? Is it hard to balance your personally your own time, and B, just understanding? I mean, I'm sure the frame of reference is very different, right? So let me frame that again. Is it hard to balance your time between these two?
So I always tell Bhuvan and a lot of people who are close to me, we've had this conversation. So like you said, that Bhuvan is one in a generation, one in a million.
One in a billion.
At least 1 in 17 million.
Yeah. Oh yes, of course. But so he's that sort of an asset that I have right now as a partner. And then all my other partners at Artist Aadmi, they are fairly new and they are still trying to prove their mettle. And then my number is the same, right? It's the same cell phone, the same number. So for bookings or for brand calls for Bhuvan or either Agastya or anybody. So there's a very different kind of conversation that I have to start with, right? So I was telling Bhuvan that, one day I'll have, with due respect, if I have to go through bipolar disorder, you'll be the one who'll have to pay for my cure. Why? Because if I pick up a phone call for Bhuvan Bam, if they say, is that Rohit Raj from BBQ Wines? I'll be like, yeah, tell me. And if they say, is that Rohit Raj from Agastya? Yes, please tell me.
Boliye sir, kaise aap?
So it's a very different situation here, because here I'm the chooser.
Right.
There I want more gigs. There I want to make I want to do as much business as I can. I want to make everything, that everything that basically adds a wing to the bands that are part of the roster. Here at Bhuvan, I have to think 100 times before saying yes to something. It could be the best thing in the world, but it might not work with us.
Because in that case, Bhuvan is the brand that is getting managed.
Exactly. So it totally depends on who you are managing, your tonality, your conversation, your negotiations. They completely change. With the kind of people you are dealing with, it completely change. And the kind of responsibility that you have when you are managing somebody who has 17 million subscribers versus somebody who's just begun. There's a lot of responsibility difference there.
Right.
So I manage my time. I don't know. I have 24 hours on my sleeve. I sleep for about 6 to 5 hours a day. And I even manage to sleep like an auntie in the day whenever I can.
I love that ability, man. That's a superpower that you must have.
Yeah, because I want to catch on to my sleep.
Yeah.
and I want to be nice to everybody else so when I'm awake, right? Because I don't want to pick up my phone in a groggy manner and then be all, badass to people. So I'm always just the way I'm talking to you. This is how I am with almost everybody, and I wake up with a call, and I sleep missing at least 4 calls. If I sleep for 2 hours in the day, or if I am on a flight, I get about 11 to 12 missed call alerts.
Right.
So that is what my life is. So I'm not right now, at least I have an aim. So till about I turn 27, I just turned 26. Till about 27, I want to hustle like anything. So there are no sleeping hours. There is no routine. I am growing fat. I'm losing hair. But I just want to do, and I just want to be at it till about 27. Post that, I'll probably try and have the luxury of not picking up a few calls, not calling back a few people.
Man, the way you say 27, we've lost a lot of really good men at
I
27.
love the drive with which you just said what you said, because, and again, I know you outside of this, so I know that it's what you live. But yeah, man, 27 is early. But see, 2 things on that, right? I think first up, that missing call anxiety is going to kill us all, right? I mean, I've been there, and I've kind of retrenched now that I'm not on the creator side anymore. I can just be like, hey bro, it's like Sunday, I'm not working today, go home. But that anxiety is one. And the second thing is, dude, this hustling thing, I don't think it's a switch.
You can't switch, no?
Yeah, I don't think it's a switch. Like, you might reduce the amount of time you hustle, but I don't think the hustle goes away till you just be like, I'm sick of it. But anyway, that's another podcast. Let me ask you this. Before we started recording, you told us a very interesting story about recording with Shah Rukh for Bhuvan and having another artist crisis. Can you relay that back for our listeners, please?
So because we are so personally connected with almost all talents. One of my talent back in Delhi, he would have happened to take a personal loan to buy a guitar. And then he would have mentioned the office address. So he failed to pay the loan and to pay the EMIs. So the bank guys now hired a recovery agent.
Right.
To get those 50,000 rupees out of that guy. Because of my office address, because recovery agents would do anything that they would like to, right? They will Google, they will search on Facebook and everywhere. So he did, and he found my number on one of the band's Facebook page, which I had requested my team to please get rid of.
Right.
Because now is not the time to do this.
Right.
Right? At least, I don't want to miss a call, at least, right? When I'm in a meeting or something. So might as well, it should go to the right person. But incidentally, that page had my number.
Wow.
And this was 11th of December 2018, and we were shooting at Mehboob.
Right.
We were meeting Mr. Shah Rukh Khan for the first time, doing our first ever T2 talks, which we were very scared of. We booked a studio for the first time, that too Mehboob.
Mehboob, right.
And we were doing art and all on our own for the first time, and it was all a first-hand experience, like something which we hadn't done before.
Right.
And we were also not aware of how stars are so punctual and they come on time.
So punctual.
So we were ready, and I was doing some back and forth with the management and art and everybody. And I started getting a call from an unknown number. 1 call, 2 call, 3 calls, and I'm like, I'm not there. This person is not there. I don't know this person. Can you please keep the phone? I'm in the middle of something. For the next 3 hours, I got about 140 plus calls.
Wow.
This guy had a software from which he could just dial my number from random numbers. So even if I keep blocking all of these, I still won't win.
Wow. Because he can just invent a new number.
Yeah.
Insane, man.
Nightmare.
And that's, the reason why I asked you to relay that story back is because that's the balance, right? That's what you need. That's what you do on a day-to-day basis, right? You're shooting with Shah Rukh Khan and Bhuvan Bam, but 50,000 rupees is important at this point as well in someone's life. And that person is also invested in you and you are invested in him. So
have to cover his back as well.
Absolutely. I think that was a very poignant way of looking at, yaar, ye hota hai. Artist management. On that note, we're going to head into a break. On the other side, we talk to Vinay and Rohit about building successful teams and the future of their companies. Stay tuned to Storytellers and Story Sellers right after these messages. Ladies and gentlemen, back on this episode of Storytellers and Story Sellers, we have Rohit Raj and Vinay Pillai in the studio with us. Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Before the break, we were talking about Rohit and Vinay's journeys in entertainment, their engineering backgrounds, and how that has absolutely not helped. But we also talked about influencers. We also talked about how these guys are building businesses with talent and how talent is important. But I think there's something that's even more important no matter which business you're in, right? Especially when you're young, ambitious, driven, want to do a lot of things, right? I mean, Rohit manages 6 companies, and Vinay's a multi-hatter at TVF, the hat company. So I think what's most important, and this is from personal experience, a lot from observing other people, other driven, ambitious people in leadership positions. I know leader is like a big loaded word, means different things to different people. But what's important is having a great team at your back, right? No matter what your ambition is, and it could be merchandising today, it could be building a product, it could be any damn thing that you well please, right? How did you approach building teams that could bring your vision to life? How did that happen? Who was the first hire you made, Rohit?
So I'm the wrong person to be answering this question in the first place, is because today I have a team. Today I have a 7-member team,
right,
which manages all of this that I'm talking about. But personally, since the beginning, because somebody who taught me event management and helped me in a lot of the execution that we did then, instilled the fact that you need more partners than employees.
Right.
So today I don't know, it's sort of a guilty pleasure sort of a situation where I am also proud, yet I know that I am way behind than a lot of others who are in the same sphere in terms of forming a team.
Right.
How am I proud is because I don't have a team, but I have partners,
right,
who are equally invested in what I do. Also, these partners have their expertise in the kind of business that I'm running right now.
right,
So considering all 6 of them are 6 different, very different, they could be connected, but they are very different scope of work, where there is an event management company which is hardcore pitches, hardcore sales, and then hardcore operations and execution,
right,
and a lot of crisis management. Somebody with real gut can actually do that. In terms of artist management, it's a lot of emotion, it's a lot of brand building, it's a lot of music understanding capability, it's a lot of creativity that one needs. I am lucky to have that sort of a partner with me. At BBQ Wines, it is the whole universe is based on the creative. No matter how good I do, the creative needs to be the best. So Bhuvan is the most powerful partner that I have there. Then in terms of merchandise, I have somebody who's a veteran in his field and is one of the most renowned sports person in the country. And then Bhuvan's friend Arvind basically possess the capabilities of doing supply chain, logistics, production, fabric control, everything. So I have been able to partner with so it's a smaller team, but these are all partners with me in different walks of life with different expertise. But today and in the past 2 years, in the past 1 year, I have tried working towards forming a good team. So I've tried trusting people. Initially, I had that trust factor.
How's that going for you?
That's going on good because I'm not recruiting like a beast. I'm going slow.
Right.
Choosing the right kind of people who've been longing to work with me. Also because the kind of people I work with, there's a story. So I met somebody on Facebook when the low was happening, I told you, right? After journalism.
Right.
This guy, an 18-year-old kid, messaged me on Facebook and said, Bhaiya, I really like you. And I really like the kind of work that you do. And I am very fascinated by event management. And I've been also doing the kind of parties that you used to do 4 years back. And I would love to work with you. 18 years, about 4 years back. Today he's 22. He's the other partner at Artist Aadmi.
Right.
Today I don't need to be in Delhi. Today he fills in for me everywhere.
Right.
right? And
And
he's
that's
just 22.
the dream, right? That's kind of the dream, isn't it?
It is. To have multiple branches with multiple confidants in-house, right? Multiple pillars where they know that they can rely on me and I know somebody's got my back.
Right.
So I think even if whoever I recruit as a team member, most of them will turn into a partner eventually in the longer run. And that's my way of building a team. Hopefully they'd be able to hire more people under them and have a team stronger for them.
I think that's very interesting because I love the way you said partner, and I think that's a very different way of looking at it. And while I know when your company is going from mid to larger than mid, you do need to give away a little bit of control and have that little bit of extended trust on a larger team that may not be the people you have handpicked, but very 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 interesting, very personal, right? Kind of keeping with the way you run the rest of the business as well. But let me toss this over to Vinay. How does this work at TVF? And I mean, let me build this up by saying I have looked for talent in this market, and that's not to say that there isn't great business or talent management talent in the market, but it's not an exact science, right? It's not, there's no syllabus that has been set out saying, hey, if you're going to be a talent manager, this is what you need to do. And we don't have some kind of a factory line where
That's true.
you can just dip in and say, hey, this is what we need. So how does it work at TVF?
So, I mean, firstly, because I mean, Rose being modest and about how he goes about this. Yeah, and especially like, you know, I don't even know. I know for a fact that maybe he's not studied this or all of those things, but he's essentially bringing a very revolutionary way of hiring,
Right.
which you've seen in like developed markets where people are equity and profit share partners and not employees, so that they are more vested into it and
More skin in the game.
yeah,
sort of.
exactly. So it's not the necessary standard model of salaried and bonuses, but more of, hey, you know what, I'm going to share more with you, but then hey, you also need to control the P&L. You need to actually start thinking as, you know, more than just another employee in that sense.
Like a CEO yourself, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So speaking of CEO, like from my previous background, studying and everything was in product. So one of the first things with product and hiring, what everyone says is every product manager is a CEO of that feature.
Right.
So if you're in an Amazon and you're in the marketplace side, then you're the CEO of that marketplace. Not only do you need to know how to run the tech aspect of it, but also the business and the pricing and everything, right?
Right.
So that essentially is a philosophy of where, you know, even I've always tried to hire in that way, where first and foremost, you, especially in a field like talent management, where the rules of the game are not set, right? And what you're going to be working on is not clear. It's more important to find people who are very self-motivated, extremely interested in learning things and upskilling. I think that's a major issue of which is why we try to hire younger.
Right.
Not saying that, you know, people who are older would not fit, but it's just a scenario of it's difficult to find a 45-year-old person who's willing to then come and, you know, relearn a lot of things.
Sure.
So in that sense, we try to hire younger. But essentially, anyone who's hardworking, motivated, responsible, and has a thirst for learning, if those four criteria are met, then a lot of the other criteria can be compromised on while bringing people on board.
Let me ask you this then as a follow-up. A lot of people, and because this is talent and because it's entertainment and there's apparent glamour in it, a lot of people get motivated to join this industry, especially in the talent side, thinking I also want to be a talent, right? I'm not saying all
Correct.
of them are like that, but there's a lot of glamour motivation, right?
Yeah.
How do you sift through that and land at this aptitude that you're looking for, right? कि hardworking होगा, driven होगा, इस business में काम करना चाहता है,
Yeah.
but for the right reasons. I mean, are there any
I mean,
filters
there
that
are a
you
lot
look
of
at?
people like that. You know, a lot of people who are creators, influencers, who actually try to get into the team purely from a standpoint of saying, hey, you know what, if I get in here, maybe I'll learn how to do business deals and then I can take some clients and do it for myself.
Right.
The first thing that I tell anyone who's also a creator is that, listen, you need to make a choice for yourself and for your future. If you are spending half your time being an employee or like working in a company on the business side of things and not really focusing on getting your actual content and what works for you right on each platform, then you're doing yourself a big disservice from being a talent. That is what's going to stop you from actually becoming an actual full-bred, thoroughbred talent. So we are very, very against hiring people who come with that dual mindset.
Right.
Not because, we're happy to sign them as a talent if they actually show real spark from that side.
Sure.
I think that the dichotomy is a little difficult. I know for a fact that even say Rohit works for Bhuvan because Rohit is not today trying to also start a YouTube channel and pitch himself to brands.
Of course.
So that aspect of things are very important. But then touching back to the older point, like every single person at some point in time gets bored with what you're doing.
Right.
Not because things get repetitive, because you're not challenging yourself to do more. Right. So it becomes paramount that we find people who want to take up a lot of things so that you can also start clearing things from your own schedule of management so that you can also go and achieve new things, and they also trickle down higher right. But in all honesty, more than hiring, I think the biggest mistake that most companies make when it comes to building a team is not getting the culture right. If you don't have a great culture and you don't really know what your culture is, it's very difficult to find, like, the best people will struggle in it. And secondly, like, firing right. It's you after meeting someone for 5 meetings, 6 meetings, you can get them wrong. You can get someone who was super motivated in the first 3 months and then it really dipped. So at that point of time, the culture of the team and the ability to identify problems and then provide them a solution, but then if that does not work, to actually fire is equally important to actually maintaining a great team.
So 2 questions to follow up, and Rohit, feel free. Number 1 is, when you say hiring or firing right, and both these questions are kind of about team culture and company culture and stuff like that. Do you believe in a process where it is you and maybe just another 1 or 2 other people making the hiring decision, or do you distribute it with the larger team, saying, okay, these are the people you will work with on a day-to-day basis, these are the what do you prefer? That's my first follow-up, and I'll come to the second one. But what do you prefer? Do you keep it very tight, saying, hey, I've seen it, I know my CEO seen it, a couple of other people have seen it, if they're okay, they should be okay? Or do you open it up to the larger team and be like, hey, come spend a day with us and stuff like that?
No, I actually absolutely love the larger team getting involved into it, especially the team that they're going to work with.
Right.
I think it's a very, very toxic way of hiring if you appoint someone for a team and the team has not met them, or not had a say of at least the cultural fit. A lot of times if somebody's hiring their boss, they can't talk about their competency. But they can definitely talk about and give you feedback on culturally whether this makes sense.
Sure.
So that's a very key aspect of. I think it's a completely absurd thing if you and your CEO and 3 people sit and decide ki now we'll bring this person on, and if that person doesn't fit into the team.
Yeah. How about you?
I personally only look forward to associate with, like I said, the right kind of partners, and then further the partners have to work with these people right in everyday life. So if they think there is somebody who's adding value to the company, that's when they can totally go out and hire anybody.
Sure.
So I give them complete freedom. And most of the time if I have some feedback, or if I basically keep a check once a month, and that's all I want to do, because I don't want to just wake up someday and pick up
micromanage.
Yeah, like exactly. And ideally, I think I've had a couple of people on my own who I knew that would probably add a lot of value, but rest
you
all
just
of
have
them,
a feeling that, hey, right guy, right time.
Yeah, and also I always look for that greed. वो greed होना बहुत जरूरी है. And there are 2 people who that hunger, exactly, that
hustle
hunger.
करो, भसड़ नहीं.
Yeah, I had to plug that. So thanks for doing that.
Go out and buy Yuthiappa merchandise. It's beautiful, amazing. There's a Ludo board with BB's face on it. It is the best thing I've seen this week.
Thank you.
Yeah, but back to teams. So my second follow-up on that, though, is about company culture, right? You brought this up, and to me, I think it's a very misinterpreted thing. right? Company culture can mean anything from, I mean, ideally it should mean all of us are pulling in the same direction. We'll be there for each other, cover
Correct.
each other's ass, and point out problems early. That's, I think, what every company culture aspires to be, right? However, often some people interpret company culture to be, hey, I'm going to hire people that I can get a beer with,
Yeah.
right? Where do you guys stand on that? How do you interpret company culture in that sense?
No, see, I think that culture is always aspirational and, a combination of what the people there are.
Right.
So clearly you can have something on a deck and be like, this is, what we want it to be. But then if you make all your decisions based on other things, then your culture is going to be the accumulation of those 10 people.
Right.
Now, you might be like, I don't like to party, so nobody in my company should like ideally be like that or whatever.
Yeah.
But you hire 10 people who all like party every day.
Right.
Your company culture is partying, whether you like it or not.
Correct.
So, I went through two phases, right? Like while at Dekho, we actually really got to build the culture,
Right.
where from ground up, because in that sense, I'm sure you also have faced this, where when you're building something, building culture is essentially easier because
Nothing exists in
nothing exists, and then you actually personally get involved into the hiring of the first set of leaders, and the next set of people that they hire will also kind of gravitate towards that kind of culture, as opposed to when we came into TVF, there already existed cultures.
Right.
It was already, there are 270 people at TVF.
Yeah.
So there are multiple cultures with respect to multiple teams, and then ours was another one that came in, and then you just try to take the best from cultures that exist, and then try to impart whatever you believe works with your culture to the others. It's a real tough process. Integration,
It really is. Yeah.
is a real tough process, and I think that actually took up a massive amount of my time. So to get, even from like your team needs to feel comfortable, the rest of the company needs to feel that this is competent and these guys are good at what they do and their culture is interesting. So that kind of total amalgamation is not the easiest process, but it also helps. It actually improves your team culture as well, because you learn a lot of things that somebody else gets right, and get to imbibe that.
And I mean, do your thoughts reflect?
Mine are very different.
Okay. Go for it.
Because I feel so small sitting in front of the both of you, because it's just a 7-member team. You're 270 people. I'm sure there'd be more than 500 people back there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how exactly this happened. So Artist Aadmi had a very small office back in Delhi, and it was for $9,000. That was the rent.
Wow.
Right. So there were 4 people who used to sit out of there. I used to hate going there because it was about 2 hours away from where I live.
Right.
And maximum Delhi traffic on that particular road. But it was on the road, so it was still very convenient for clients to come and do our meetings.
Yeah.
So then I hired 2 people, and then they were on their notice period for a month.
Right.
So I had 1 month to rent a place, deck it up, and give them an office space on the 1st of June.
But that's the creating culture that he's
Yeah.
talking about, right? You had.
Oh, yeah.
Here's that
Of
1
course.
month you have where you
Yeah.
can make
Yeah.
sure that these 2 people who are chosen to join you
Right.
feel like they're walking into the best company in the world.
Yeah.
They did the office puja with me.
How long?
The
Yeah.
new employees did the office puja with me. We made a residential office. So we have a residential office in Mumbai.
Right.
And we have a residential office in Delhi.
Right.
Because I know that Bhuvan and I are so lazy people. Like we'd rather like to spread our feet and then have a laptop on our on our lap and then
Yeah.
work. And we also use our office as a studio.
I think that you use the word lazy completely wrong. You two are not lazy.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
think that's lazy.
Yeah, you guys work a
That's
lot.
relaxed but still driven.
Yeah,
if you're going to lie down on your sofa and put your laptop on your lap, you're not lazy. You got.
I mean,
like,
I can't work on the
Netflix,
table.
man.
I think,
I know what you
Bhuvan
mean.
definitely cannot work on a table.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've in Bhuvan and my room there is a sofa. That's it.
Right.
And there's a TV. And rest everybody's. I mean, it's a very very homegrown sort of an experience. People have lunch together.
Yeah.
If it's somebody's birthday, somebody has to buy a cake and order something on Swiggy. If I order something on Swiggy, I order it for the entire office.
Right.
And the same happens with everybody else as well.
Yeah.
Somebody's making tea. There's an office boy who's also packing Yuthiapa stuff.
Right.
And is also serving tea.
Right.
And is also getting, is also featuring in Bhuvan's Instagram videos.
Of course.
So, yeah, so it's a very homegrown sort of a homely culture that we have back in both the offices. Here, the production team is almost here for about 16 hours a day. We are working on a show. And the team happen to be loosely connected to TVF. One of the few faces are from TVF. So they bring their own their culture.
Their bond and culture.
Yeah, bond and culture, which is very friendly. And then, of course, Bhuvan and I just go there and laze around or relax around. And that's been our spirit, I think.
I mean, but even I went through that transition where I was at Booze in a 70-floor building with crazy amenities and everything. Like, I mean, like a proper office. I mean, we had like...
Because the office was a spaceship.
No, and because of like Ed Snowden,
right,
like we had insane security measures because he was an ex-Booze guy who leaked information. To when Dekho started, basically the apartment that Tanay and I lived in was the office for up to our first 19 people.
Nice. Wow.
So if we got up in the morning late, right, and
people are already walking,
and you went to brush your teeth, by the time you came out, there was a meeting in your bedroom. So that's the kind of, it started that way. So I completely relate to what you're saying with respect to that. But yeah, I mean, I think that you've obviously built your culture. I don't see it in any other way.
Absolutely. I think very different approaches. And again, I know the people back at Dekho as well. And I know that a lot of them are at TVF now.
Yeah, you interviewed a lot of them.
I have interviewed a lot of them as well. Yes, I was there to do the culture fit, so to speak. But yeah, very different approaches, but same result, right?
Yeah.
Homegrown family vibe. And again, I know it's an overall cliche to say हमारी company family hai, but वो vibe तो हो जाती है, right?
In fact, what a lot of people probably don't know is that 4 out of like my team from Dekho actually like worked with Vineet.
Yeah, of course, they were part of my team. Yeah. Oh yeah, they were right. Exactly, they were part of the marketing team at TVF. That's absolutely correct. So, yeah, but again, going back to talking about that culture bit, I think you guys have both found a way to establish company cultures, and you've articulated it beautifully as well. Let me move on to double click on some of the projects that you guys are working on.
You're going to talk about Google double click. Like
in another life I would.
Yeah.
Right, programmatic. Right. But no, let me double click on the kind of stuff that you guys are doing these days, right? I think, and I'm going to start with Rohit, right? And I brought this up earlier when we were talking. How the hell was Davos, man?
Davos was a fantasy because last day we were there for 5 days. So I'll be very honest, all right? About 3 months back when I got a call from YouTube, so they never wanted to break it to us on WhatsApp group or an email. So my partner manager, she said that, I want to do a video. I will say to you, I will tell you only when I see you.
Right.
I said, all right, so we'll do a video conference call of sorts. Please tell us right now. Bhuvan woke up a little late and I was in the loose, so my phone camera was covered, but I wanted to hear it.
Right.
And so she tells me that there is an event happening, World Economic Forum.
Right.
That was probably the second time that I would have heard of it.
Yeah. In the loo. And I had no idea what this event is about. Right.
I had remotely heard of it.
Correct.
And then she told me the purpose of us going. And then while she was talking, I Googled about it and I realized that, okay, this is a big thing.
Yeah.
And
the biggest of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea. So that made my decision more stronger to go, because if I did not know, then I'm sure a lot of people would not know a lot of details about the event.
Right.
They would have heard about the event for sure, but they wouldn't have known what exactly happens there. So that was the purpose for YouTube and for us to go out there, experience those 5 days, experience the conference, the atmosphere. It was like Shimla, bhai. It was like Shimla taken over by big brands like IBM's and your Googles and your, I don't know, the biggest like that TCS and everybody. They are serving free chai, free Indian filter coffee. They are serving free, क्या कहते हैं, टोपियाँ दे रहे हो free में. हाँ, क्या कहते हैं, मतलब it was amazing. And on the road and wherever I go, I challenge Bhuvan. Wherever outside India, wherever we go, I challenge Bhuvan that let's see how many people will recognize you.
Right.
And because it's World Economic Forum, so every third guy is an Indian guy.
Right.
Because economy and India go hand in hand, like I think everywhere. And on the first day when we landed there, It is. That was the thing. Next thing that I was saying, that the first day we reached there, IMF chief said that
Downgraded India.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say it here, but then she said something which created quite a stir back home.
Yeah.
And we landed, and then we realized that okay, we are being looked upon by a lot of people for various reasons.
Yeah. Did they walk up to Bhuvan and be like, "Batao, economy aisi kyun hai?"
Few media guys interviewed Bhuvan
About the economy?
about the economy and why he was there.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of people were shocked to see that press tag, and Bhuvan had the white tag,
Right.
which is an all area access.
Right.
So a lot of traditional Indian media guys were taken aback.
Right.
Why is he here?
And
How
there was
is
no
he
like
here?
press brief issued to them beforehand going and stuff. So nobody knew.
Nobody knew, of
Oh,
course.
wow.
And luckily, very few delegates from India had gone.
Right.
So the experience was very exclusive for us. And we've been able to tape it, and we'll be showing it to our audiences soon.
wow.
Oh, fantastic.
But the idea is to educate people about what happens there. I got to meet Susan. That was my most important thing that for something that we are planning to do soon.
Right.
And a lot of networking. I was in a party where Nico Rosberg and Tony Blair. So Tony Blair or Tony Blair and Nico Rosberg was right across.
Wow.
And I remember about 8 years back, I was in the grandstand and I was watching Nico Rosberg racing.
Nice.
And there were a lot of media guys that we ended up meeting, a lot of industrialists that we ended up meeting. A few of them chickened out because of a lot of a lot of people did not come. Mr. Modi did not come.
Right.
Mr. Ambani did not come. Vijay Shekhar Sharma did not end up there. But whoever we could get an access to, we could meet them, we could chat with them. Great conversations. Incidentally, on the last, we happened to meet Greta Thunberg.
Oh, wow. That must have been amazing.
I campaigned for T2 Talks with Greta Thunberg. I told them like multiple times.
The
Yeah, dude,
entire
that
5
has
days,
to happen, man.
T2 Talks with Greta.
Yeah, has to happen.
Should know.
Yeah.
But what if
Mind-blowing.
T2 Mama taking Greta's case would be very interesting.
And I'm sure Bhuvan feels strongly about climate change as well, right?
He feels really strongly of the climate change. We are thinking to do something soon.
Yeah.
And I think he's been very vocal about similar things in his YouTube videos in the past as well.
Right.
And after this visit, frankly, our eyes have opened even further. I mean, we've got to see a lot of depth in whatever's happening, the change which is happening, and it's actually visible. I mean, the kind of weather atmosphere that we are going through right now is something that we couldn't have imagined 10 years back.
Wow.
And it's so weird. But definitely the five days were enlightening because we got to attend a session with Piyush Goyal, which was about the economy around the Indian Ocean and the countries around Indian Ocean.
Right.
We happened to attend a session which featured Mr. Imran Khan. Then we also got into a session which was with Susan, which was about specifically about how fake news travels around India.
Right.
And they have a team which is basically looking forward to curb it down. Which I think is a very sad story to talk about at an international platform.
But it's a big problem, isn't it?
It is. Instead of her speaking, we should rather look after it on our own, and we should practice it in a much better manner. But I think Davos was great. Though temperature rose -5 रहता था, तो we felt sick like anything. Bhuvan had about 103 fever on the way back.
Oh, wow.
And I was on the bed for next 3 days.
And it was your birthdays.
Yeah, both of us were celebrating our birthdays there.
That's what a beautiful, man. That's just
Yeah. And on the last day we were free, and I asked Bhuvan, मैंने कहा जिंदगी में कभी सोचा था बर्थडे बनाओगे डावोस में?
unbelievable. Beautiful. Just the power of YouTube, man. Just power of creation, power of YouTube. Insane.
And these guys were behind the life of WEF to consider YouTube creators equal to the traditional press that they've been
course.
getting for the past 50 years. This was the 50th year.
Right.
And this is the first time that YouTube could host a reception dinner at the WEF.
It's historic, man.
It is. And they were just 5 creators who they could give an access to. And the kind of eyeballs these 5 creators have got them is outstanding.
Right.
And the kind of viewpoint that these people will give to the complete forum is very different than the traditional way of talking about the forum and the things happening at the sessions.
Absolutely. I think it brings a younger viewpoint.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. It exposes those conversations to a more and more engaged millennial and young population, right? I think it's fantastic, man. I'm so proud of you guys for being India YouTube representatives and obviously representing yourselves beautifully, man.
Thanks,
That's a
bhai.
brilliant story there with Davos. Vinay, let me bring you into this, right? Since you've been part of TVF, you've done a fair bit of different things, right? I know you've done... I know you've built TVFPlay into a world-class product. You've done licensing. You've been part of this talent team. What are some new cool things that TVF is doing and that we can look at in the next few years?
So, I mean, obviously, our first Amazon original came out.
Yeah.
Which, performed really well. So you're going to see more stuff there. Obviously, we can't disclose names of shows and things. But
Of course, otherwise Jeff will just be like...
I mean,
I'm joking.
I would take that call. But, I mean, obviously on the long form side, we're working with multiple platforms. I think everyone started realizing that, TVF is a powerhouse of content.
Right.
And something that everyone wants to partner with. But even beyond that, I mean, if you're looking at our 4 brands and where we're planning to take them and what more we want to do on the programming side, that's creative's always been our strength, and that's something that we're going to always focus on. But beyond that, now we've gotten a taste of, even with the talent division and with the creators, on what we can do potentially, right? I think this was an experiment that started 2 years ago. Last year, we really, scaled it to a size where it's almost as large as the, short form video business for us.
Right.
And now we're going to try and do it on steroids, as cliche as that sounds.
And you've also gotten into the podcasting business.
Not podcast, it's an
audio
show, but
sure.
Can't really
talk about it. But again, TVF is getting into some of that.
It's a super, essentially with the IP development aspects. I mean, we've obviously built some of the largest IPs in this country in digital. And we've constantly been thinking on what more can we do. Merchandising is something that we'll probably look into. But the first and easiest aspect was to continue doing stories,
Right.
And if it's in a different medium, then so be it. So we're essentially doing an audio show. And I think that for the first fans of TVF, it's going to be an IP and a property that they're going to really, really enjoy seeing in a different format.
Don't give too much away. Let me ask you this though, right? And it's an interesting perspective that you'll bring. So a few months ago, I'm sure my 6 listeners remember that we heard TVF was announcing a film, right? Now as a consumer of content, right? That's a big evolution from Rowdies, which is sketch comedy and irreverent and okay, break the form and do this.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the driving force behind the TVF evolution and in general, the way that content is moving?
And I think that in general, I mean, in the overall history of content, like barriers have created opportunities.
Right.
So if you go as far back as when it came to actual film, the reason why they used to do zone releases and was because you actually shot on film.
Right.
And then you had to carry that tape,
send it across,
take it to a venue and play it live, right?
Right.
So that created a barrier geographically on what you could do and where you could shoot. Secondly, the great Thomas Alva Edison,
the one and only,
was also one of the first film producers ever,
right,
which a lot of people don't know about. They only think of the light bulb. But he had trademarks on a lot of this equipment. So he supposedly used to work with the mafia in New York. And if you did not pay him a huge amount of rental fees for equipment, he would get people to come and break your set.
Oh, wow.
So what that led to was a huge chunk of crews who wanted to make films and do this on a regular basis decided to do the most logical thing of let's get as far away as possible from him and then make films.
Right.
So they went to the extreme west of the country and formed a town called Hollywood.
Right.
And that's essentially how the Hollywood film industry came about being, because they didn't want to get beaten up by goons and did not want to pay the extra charges with respect to giving someone...
like the patent fee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that barrier created the biggest film industry of all time.
Right.
Right. From there onwards, every single time we've seen different barriers break.
Right.
So radio and television added more mediums, but were again programmatic, viewing, where appointment viewing, programmatic viewing, where you picked a slot, whatever was shown on there, you saw.
You
it,
had to watch it,
right?
yeah.
We've all heard of our parents watching Bunyad as the greatest TV show of all time, but it was also the only TV show at 9 p.m. during their lifetime at that
Right.
time. So from there now, you can essentially watch content at any point of time you feel like. You can interact with content in more ways than ever. So that's kind of, the barriers have constantly pushed us towards better and better experiences of content. So I think that, even with TVF, I mean, everyone knows about the fabled not allowed to create a show for, a media network.
Right.
Apparently being rejected by research, which, was some focus group, to then essentially getting to become a creator that's doing the most web series in the country.
That's bigger than that previous network now almost.
Yeah, probably. At least, yeah, probably.
No, definitely. I know the numbers, both sides. So, what's interesting there, and here's where I'd love to have Rohit's thoughts as well, is overall in the market today, right? We started with sketches. And sketches was big business. Yeah. Sketches at a time, BB's work, TVF, AIB, Filter Copy, all the others, right? SIT or whatever else, right? Sketches used to be big business, right? And now the share of spend on sketches or the share of time spent on sketches is also going down.
Correct.
Right? Everybody's making a show. Literally. I mean, you look at all the OML comics have an Amazon Prime show. BB has multiple shows. TVF's all doing 25 shows in a year now, which is insane when you really think about it, right? For a company that's not a 6 billion production budget.
And not outsourced production.
And not outsourced.
All in-house.
Yeah, all in-house, pretty much, with strict writing control and stuff like that. How does this industry look at the next few years in terms of evolving this content mix? What do you see the audience asking for more and more? And what do you see creators wanting to create more and more? I know it's like a big, broad question, but just want to get your sense on where this industry should be moving, no matter where it goes. And I know where it's going. It's going towards Kartik Aaryan, but
the answer also to it is very broad and massy.
Right.
Till about 15 years back, or in the first 5 years of 2000s, or in the last 5 years of 1990s, we used to get to see shows which were 30-minute long or an hour long.
Right.
Or on a Friday night or on a Saturday night, we used to get lucky where we used to get a special show which was about 90 minutes long, right?
Sure.
Or one could buy a balcony ticket and go watch a film which was about 3 hours long, right? 9 to 5, 9 to 9 se 12 aisa. With newer mediums, like, for example, there were GECs, then came music GECs.
Right.
That's when you saw a revolution of content with different shows coming with multiple seasons which are still running.
Right.
That was another sort of content which people started like, which was the reality. And the content was basically shot over 15-20 days, but it was split over weeklies, right? And these were 1 hour long episodes, and everybody used to like it. These weren't scripted. And it was purely reality, and they used to like it. Then came about 10 years back in the West came YouTube, where Lily Singh became very popular with doing the kind of sketches she did.
Right.
Then came AIB in India, where they did the podcast, and then the TVFs, which started with their sketches and spoof sketches, which were really popular.
Parodies and spoof
Parodies.
sketches, yeah.
And then came the first season of Permanent Roommates, and then simultaneously, you could see in the music field, there were a lot of cover songs coming in.
Right.
A lot of music videos, which were budgeted music videos, which started coming in.
Right.
A lot of studio short videos started coming in, which was shorter. Would be 2.5 minute long, 3 minute long. Earlier, the songs were 5.5 minute long.
Right.
6 minutes.
4.5, 5. Yeah.
Yeah,
Even
5.
6, absolutely.
Yeah. And then somebody like Bhuvan came who did a minute long videos, right? Bhuvan's first I think about 30 videos are a minute and a half long.
Right.
Right. These were not vines. Before that, there were vines as well, which were 10 seconds. Then came the kind of video that Bhuvan started doing, which were 60-seconder to about 75-seconder videos.
Right.
Then he started creating a universe of his own, so he had characters, so he could tell a more longer narrative. So he started doing 5-minute, 7-minute videos. Today you see a lot of creators doing 30-minute videos, 20-minute videos, 18-minute videos. We even try to take a plunge because of digital and because of the subscriber base that we have, or we had about a year and a half back. We could take the plunge of even making a short film, right? Which you would have probably not thought of 10 years back.
Right.
Not because you one did not have the right kind of distribution then. We never had the platforms, and we never had the audience because the audience never had the experience of watching.
Right. They weren't expecting this. They didn't know if this was possible or not.
All they knew was that 9 o'clock KBC.
Right.
Or that Friday night film. Today you might not watch a film on the theatre, but you can binge watch it or watch it over a week on your Amazon Prime. Today you can binge watch Bhuvan Bam's content, which is 150 videos, 5 to 6 minutes on an average long, and get entertained. You can watch 6 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine at a go, right, which are again 45 minutes long, and you can start watching it from anywhere you want.
Right.
To an auto driver or a taxi driver who's just swiping up on a TikTok app. Right? All the time.
Not just auto drivers, though. Everybody.
Everybody. I was on a bus to a hill station and I saw about 5 people. This is about 2 years back.
Yeah.
5 people surfing and browsing through TikTok home, which was very new to me. So, to answer your question, we are going in a sphere where audience is ready to consume any content which is larger than 3 seconds, which are your GIFs even.
Right.
Even memes for that matter.
Right.
From 3 seconds to about 120 minutes or 150 minutes of content. Or if it is written well, they could even be with you for 3 hours.
Sure.
Right? But there are consumers, there are platforms, there are distribution chains which will help any kind of content reach any kind of audience, because there are so many consumers in today's day and age.
Right.
Earlier there were very handful of them. Today my college owner, who happens to be Arjun Kapoor's Mama ji, उन्होंने एक बात बहुत बढ़िया बोली थी कि 1 करोड़ लोग 100 रुपए की टिकट दे के पिक्चर देखने जाएंगे, जो कि आज की तारीख में 100 का नहीं होता है टिकट. तो 100 crore तो any film will do, which is 1% of the total audience.
Right.
So जनता बहुत ज़्यादा है. The number of people, I mean, Bhuvan's video, he released it on day before. There are about 8 million unique viewers.
Wow.
Right? He gets about 30 million unique viewers in a month.
Right.
So 3 crore people sit back at home or on their cell phone and they watch Bhuvan Bam's content which he makes out of his house.
Just pause there for a second. I mean, 3 crores is an insane number, right? Again, every time I have to deal with a number that big, I realize that the only things that feel that big, apart from money, obviously, the only things that many that you will have in your life is either rice or sand.
Or water, maybe.
Or water. But you can't count water.
That's
and be like 30 million water. But wow, dude, that's insane, right?
Crazy.
And I love quoting this especially to brands, right? When they tell us, when they're still skeptical about the power of creators. They're like, bro, understand this. There is a guy walking around who can turn a key and reach 10 million people. It's in his pocket.
I mean, I think it's the stupidest comparison that's made is you'll pay an actor an exorbitant amount of money.
Right.
And then you'll go and buy all the media for his distribution.
Right.
You essentially have a person who's not only a face now, he's not just a creator that has distribution.
He's also the media channel.
He's actually also, I mean, he's also a very attributable brand ambassador.
Absolutely.
And he comes with an entire media inventory of distribution.
Right.
Last 1.5 year of mine has only gone into telling brands that, okay, you invest X amount of money in your media buying. Give me a chunk of it. I'll give you the brand ambassador and I'll also give you that much media.
Exactly.
Correct.
And the kind of eyeballs that Bhuvan has been able to get them, and with those short eyeballs, right, targeted to the right kind of audience, I don't think any other medium would be able to do that.
No, absolutely not. Right? I mean, and I think as someone who's been on both sides of the table, not just the impact, the measurability that it brings, right? Yeah. If you're able to tell me that, भाई मैंने परसों वीडियो रिलीज किया, आज उसमें 8 मिलियन लोगों ने देख लिया यूनिक. TV will never be able to give you that number.
Yeah.
That's true.
Right? So
Yeah.
the fundamentals of what you're trying to do are so much more advanced. And it's a shame, right? I think blame can lie at our end, blame can lie with the guys who are obviously doing a very good job selling TV, right? But yeah, I think it's reached its tipping point.
Yeah.
I don't think any actor from the Balaji telefilms history and the canon and the filmography has ever gone to Davos.
Maybe.
Right, so I think we are at a very important tipping
Yeah.
point in terms of how talent gets viewed, right? And it's not
Yeah.
just pure numbers. It's not just now we have 450 million people are online and so many
Yeah.
people are watching TikTok and spending time. It's also the cultural importance.
No, and it's actually funny, like the whole spread of what Rohit was explaining, right, with what's available today as content.
Right.
When recently when Reed Hastings was asked, like, who amongst HBO, Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, when he was asked who amongst HBO, Amazon, all of these companies, Disney, who do you view as your primary competition?
Right.
And his answer was sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep is my primary competition.
that's
Because, content viewing, if you start consuming one thing, you consume everything.
Right.
It only increases, But the one point I actually like really, and I've, Rohit and I have obviously spoken about this in the past, was that anyone who's creating content in India and is not using aided content, so be it, TikTok, Insta stories, those are still, essentially using aided tools to, showcase your life and
Sure,
much easier things. But anyone who's actually a creator, this country is obsessed with films.
Right.
I can't think of a creator who is not, made it or successful by all metrics, and is, still not like itching to get a film done.
Yeah.
And I think that there's still that gap that needs to be addressed, where can a YouTube creator sell tickets? Can you mount a film and can that film make a lot of money? And I think that whoever does that first has like that huge responsibility. And obviously there's a huge prime contender in Bhuvan for.
I wonder who. Right. No, but absolutely. I think, and it goes back to the tyranny of the form. Tyranny is a big word, but again, it is bada parda.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Phone पे तो मैं देखता ही हूँ. मतलब भले ही 17 million follower हो, वीडियो हो जाए 50 million, right? वो बंदा फिर भी phone पे दिखता है, right? That's not to take away from the fact that he's very talented and he's got a great following.
Yeah.
But हमारे देश में लोगों को वो बड़े पर्दे का there's a greed about it. There's a different respect for it. I think
also
still.
think it's not.
Even though we still make like Dabang and Houseful 4 and all of that also goes on the bada parda, but it still has the sort of impact and scale. I think that's what creators tend to aspire to, right?
I think it's also a bubble because we've been unlucky to say no to a lot of films.
Sure.
A lot of films which have released, a lot of films which probably will do good in the future. To come back to what Vinay Bhai said, that consider roadies to be the YouTube of India about 15 years back.
Sure.
Right? Ayushmann is that breakthrough.
Right.
Correct.
Right. It took him 15 years maybe. What?
So Vicky Donor,
Right.
his first film, was content rich.
Right.
Correct.
He was the best fit. He did a lot of stuff before that, which was anchoring and doing things here and there.
Yeah.
I'm not quoting his example because he's done really good work in the last 1 year, not because of that, but because that first film that he chose was something which fit his bill,
Right.
Yeah.
was perfect for his persona. And the content wise of the film was very rich.
Yeah.
And it did wonders for him, of course. Why did I call it a bubble? Is because Bhuvan and I are very sorted. We know that one of our videos very recently, about 10 days back, it bombed like anything. We have about 200,000 dislikes on it.
Oh, wow.
So it was an experiment anyway. We
Right.
were very clear that we want to do something which we did 4 years back. Do a 2-minute long video, bring that same character back.
Nice.
It was bizarre. It was a risk, and it failed, and we got 40,000 comments which were not so supportive. And then Bhuvan gave a rebound with the video that he just did 2 days back, and then there are 100,000 comments.
Right.
The video had 1.2 million likes in a day on YouTube.
Crazy.
And so one Friday that goes wrong, I'll take about 6 months to give that rebound.
Right.
My video
Right.
released on the 1st of February, and the other, because he was busy, the other rebound went on 11th. So within 10 days, I could come back with something.
Yeah.
One. Second, forget the OTTs. I'm 100% sure nobody can get a lot of numbers on their shows, no matter how big the show is in India. But compared to what kind of video views you would have got on Quota Factory, or the kind of video views we get on one of our best videos, I don't think that many eyeballs will ever reach the theaters and watch
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
those films. Also, I think the perception, because creators who've reached a stage where they've almost tested all sort of waters, they would be a little sane and not jump onto any opportunity coming their way.
Right.
What I feel is that it's not the creators or the people who make. Of course, the audience makes Bollywood the ultimate goal for everybody, but it's also the industry today.
Right.
Yeah.
If Bhuvan does, I don't know, if Bhuvan goes to Davos, they might think twice before writing about him in the press.
Right.
But if somebody who's done 2 films
Airport looks.
and is at Davos, he or she will be painted all across.
Airport looks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Davos.
There's a machinery behind
Yeah.
Bollywood that, again, the terrible word, Bollywood, but the machinery behind the Indian film industry that keeps it going. And we were talking about an actress who hasn't done a film in the past couple of years, but still every time she's even going shopping, she'll send her PR agency about it.
Yeah.
Right? So that machinery is absolutely
Yeah.
important. I think...
But also aspirationally though. Like, I mean, in the sense where I think that, the current creators like Bhuvan and Ashish and all these guys, they've all grown up watching films as
Right.
that first content.
Right, absolutely.
Right. But I think that, 20 years from now, like if you go to the US, I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to be PewDiePie more than like George Clooney.
Sure.
That conversation I had with Susan. She told me that people in the West, they today do not want to be an actor in a film. Why? Because as a creator, they get to direct, act, edit, do everything.
A lot more creative
Yeah.
control, aspiration. Yeah, absolutely.
And when they go on a film set and they do what they do around their YouTube videos with the director of the film set, I don't think that'll be a good experience.
Yes.
Yeah. No, and I think you guys hit it on the head, because there's this story about my nephew, right? So I'm from Nagpur. It's about 150 kilometers outside Nagpur. There's a town called Vani. It's a coal mining town, really small, maybe 80,000 people live there. My nephew who's 13 when this thing happened, now is about 15, I think, and he has a YouTube channel, and he makes types of eaters videos. And because I used to work at TVF, he would keep sending me stuff. And I mean, first couple of times I was like, "Ek minute, he may be sending somebody else's videos." Then I went and met him, right? And then I saw his videos, and exactly what you said. He's just like, "Mujhe YouTuber banna hai."
Correct.
Right? That's what I want to do. And it's not just mujhe YouTuber banna hai because I've seen people be successful at it. It's something that he genuinely enjoys with his friends.
True.
Right? So the whole behavior of not just create, but create together with friends, I think that's a big draw as well. Right? Not just I want to be someone at a certain point in time, but you see, I mean, I take a lot of road trips out of Bombay, and you stop at any one of these McDonald's, or you stop in any town, and you'll see like 4 or 5 kids just standing around making TikToks.
True.
Yeah.
Together, right? So there is a fundamental change there. But I think what I took out of your Ayushman example also was that, yeah, he started 15 years ago. And it took him that much time.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that he said, no, doesn't fit, not what I want to do, and stuff like that. But the ultimate ambition still somehow feels like it's going to be around for another 10 years to be like, let's make a film.
Yeah. And I think the first guy who does it successfully is going to change and open this up for everyone.
I truly believe so. That said, 2 crores, I don't think less than maybe 5 films get to 2 crore people in India, maybe. What do you think? Yeah? It's a massive number, man, 2 crores.
Yeah, easily.
5 years.
But yeah, I mean, see, the industry is always going to talk about, oh, this was free, this was on YouTube, it was on your phone.
Of course.
That's the, common misconception. But these are also, probably would have the same kind of people who would have never cast these people if they didn't have this followership.
Absolutely,
They didn't even have
absolutely.
there would be no conversation around any of these creators because they are not the typical fit of what you have assumed for whom you want to cast. So the fact that now at least the conversation has started that let's give them this role or bring that to them, at least that started. But I think the real challenge and the real success will be when that mounting happens and the first person who does it is going to open it up for 100 people.
I'll tell you an interesting story. Sorry. So about 3 years back, somebody called us to promote a film, which is again one of the top production houses in the country, doing content on OTT and films, of course, and films being their primary business. And I told the digital marketing lady that I would want to meet the producers and make them meet Bhuvan. Then she's like, oh no, they are traveling, they're busy and all of that. 3 years down the line, about 2 months back, the same producer called us to cast Bhuvan in a film. But the sad part was that the producer was sitting with the marketing head in the room with us. Had it been the director or the script writer or somebody who's more creatively driven to have that guy to play that role. But the minute I saw the marketing head in the room, I realized this is a marketing
decision.
Yeah, the motivation was wrong.
Yeah. It's not because he's the right fit for the role. It's because if Bhuvan's in the movie, he will sell 5 crore more tickets.
Yeah, and I think people forget that Bhuvan's not just face. He's a great writer and a director and all of those things. He actually makes his content by himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for making the time. I know that we are going to continue this after, but time says we need to stop. Before I let you guys go, I want you guys to give my listeners, and something that I ask all my guests, one piece of entertainment that they should check out, right? Could be a video, a film, a song, movie. I already said film though. But a game, a meme, whatever, right?
I'm thinking about it.
Vinay, you go first. And you can't say powerhouse because I know all of us have read it.
Yeah. I mean, this is the chain of how referrals happened. I think I really, really enjoyed Mindhunter recently.
Yeah.
Season 2 was amazing. I think even from a non-fiction standpoint, Goop Lab was very, very interesting.
Oh shit, Goop Lab, my god.
So, go with your, mind open a bit if you're going to go and see Goop Lab.
Right.
But, I liked how they've spoken about everything from orgasms to psychedelics as, emotional therapy and, cold therapy, some really interesting topics and very different. But yeah, from Parasite.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Parasite.
Guys, if you haven't seen Parasite, please go and watch it.
Yeah, it'll be out of theaters in a couple of days when we're recording this, but my god, my reaction to Parasite was that's the perfect film. Right? My favorite film since Get Out, and what a film, my god.
And just again, it's so the world, that global content, what, if a Korean film is now winning the Oscar for the best film, there's aspirationally, I think if all of us make something that's globally possible, the distribution right now exists for it to happen.
Absolutely.
Which is a super interesting time in the world.
Rohit?
I'd say मैं तो चाहता हूँ आप लोग सब खुश रहो यार. तो ब्रुकलिन 99 देख लेना, हंसी आती है, ठीक है. तो मतलब जब कभी, so I watch content only to unwind.
Right.
So I can't be a part of that system. Right. I can't be a Game of Thrones guy who had to remember the previous episode.
Right.
I'm not that kind of a person. So कभी भी कहीं से भी उठा के देख लो ब्रुकलिन 99, हंसी आएगी, ठीक है. वरना बीबी की वाइन्स में 150 वीडियोस हैं.
Favorite video.
What's your favorite BB video? Yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, that's a really good question. I think the Johnny Sins episode is by far the funniest that I've found, because it's very our style,
Right.
very something with everybody would relate
Right.
to. So I think Johnny Sins was fun, and the recent one is really good. I liked it after ages. I've liked one of Bhuvan's video. So it's really nice. I hope he doesn't kill me.
I will check that out. Once again, Rohit Raj, Vinay Pillai, thank you for making the time. This is Vineet Kanabar signing off from Storytellers and Storysellers.